Okay, welcome back. Finally going to be caught up, and after I'm done doing my reviews for these games, I will take a look at the standings as of today. So we had 6 games on tap for Friday, November 1st. I can't believe it's already November. Doesn't time fly by? It's scary. The Dallas Stars played host to the defending Stanley Cup champions and the Florida Panthers. In the first period, Evan Rodriguez would get his second goal of the year from Ekblad and Barkov just under a minute into the first, giving the Panthers a 1-0 lead. Speaking of Barkov, he got on the goal scorer sheet himself, getting his second goal of the year from Reinhart and Rodriguez, 7-11 of the first frame. Tyler Seguin would cut the deficit to 2-1, getting his fifth goal of the year from Lyubushkin and Matt Duchene, 10:45 of the first period. Anton Lundell would get his sixth goal of the year, a power play goal from Ekblad and Bennett, 15:52 of the first period. So heading into the second, the Panthers had a 3-1 lead. In the second, Esa Lindell would get his first goal of the year from Robertson and Matt Duchene, a minute 32 of the second period, cutting the deficit to 3-2. Sam Reinhart would make it 4-2 in favor of the Panthers, getting a shorthanded goal. For Reinhart, that'd be his eighth goal of the year from Barkov and Ekblad, 6:07 of the second period. So heading into the third, the Panthers had a 4-2 lead. In the third, Maki Samoskevich would get his second goal of the year from Greer and McCullough, 2:31 of the third period, putting the Panthers up 5-2 at that point. Sam Reinhart would get his second goal of the game, his ninth of the year from Barkov and Forsling, 10:08 of the third period, giving the Panthers a 6-2 lead. Marvik Bork, I believe, would get his first National Hockey League goal, or his first of the season. It's one of those two. Assisted by Steele and Lyubushkin, 15:38 of the third, cutting the deficit to 6-3 at that point. And with 34 seconds remaining, Jamie Benn would make it 6-4, getting his third goal of the year from Stankoven and Lindell. But unfortunately, it was too little too late at that point. So the Panthers would go into Dallas and win 6-4. The New York Islanders were in Buffalo taking on the Sabres. Dylan Cousins would get his first goal of the year, a power play goal from Zucker and Rasmus Dahlin just over 9 minutes into that period. Bo Horvat would score around the same time. I just don't understand why, when it comes to the time, it doesn't show you exactly what it is. Like, to me, these goals could have been like 5 seconds apart, 4 seconds apart. So I do apologize for not knowing the exact time, but it just seems strange how some of the goals will show the exact time that they was scored, and other times it'll be like this, where it's like time 09 ... So these goals could have been 5 seconds apart. These goals could have been 50 seconds apart. I'm not sure, but either way, the game was tied heading into the second period. For Horvat, that would be his fourth goal of the year, assisted by Anders Lee. In the second period, Maxim Cyplikov would get his second goal of the season, unassisted, 5:25 of the second period. Kyle Palmieri would give the Islanders a 3-1 lead, getting his fifth goal of the year, a power play marker from Cyplikov and Holmstrom, 12:20 of the second frame. So heading into the third, the Islanders had a 3-1 lead. In the third, Jason Zucker would cut the deficit to 3-2, getting his third goal of the year from Tage Thompson and Bowen Byram, 5:27 of the third frame. Jean-Gabriel Pageau would increase the lead to 4-2, getting his second goal of the season from Bo Horvat and Anders Lee, 8:08 of the third period, putting the Islanders up 4-2 at that point. Owen Power would strike, cutting the deficit to 4-3, getting his third goal of the year from Ryan McLeod and Bowen Byram. But unfortunately, that's as close as the Sabres came, so 4-3 would be the final in favor of New York. Speaking of New York, the other team had the Rangers playing host to the Ottawa Senators. In the first period, just a one goal to report. Artemi Panarin, the bread man, would get his seventh goal of the year from Lafreniere just over 3 minutes into the first period. There was no scoring in the second, but to jump all the way ahead to the third, where Alexis Lafreniere would increase the lead to 2-0, getting a power play goal, his fifth of the year from Sheedle and Riley Smith, 2:56 of the third frame. Adam Gaudette would cut the deficit to 2-1, getting his fifth goal of the year from Tkachuk and Chabot, 12:28 of the third period, but the Sens were not able to tie it up, so it would be a nail-biter, but 2-1 would be the final score in favor of the New York Rangers. The Columbus Blue Jackets played host to the Winnipeg Jets. In the first period, Nick Ehlers would open up the scoring, getting his 5th goal of the year from Colin Miller, 5:13 of the first. Sean Kuraly would get his first goal of the year from James Van Riemsdyk, 11:02 of the first period, tying the game up at 1. Nick Ehlers would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 6th of the season, 15:14 of the third, unassisted. So the Jets had a 2-1 lead heading into the second period. In the second, Mason Appleton would increase the lead to 3-1, getting his 4th goal of the year from Pionk and Adam Lowry, 2:20 of the second frame. Sean Monahan would cut the deficit to 3-2, getting his 6th goal of the year, a power play goal from Rowensky and Marchenko with 3.5 minutes to go in the second. Nick Ehlers would get his 3rd goal of the game, otherwise known as a hat trick, unassisted, his 7th of the season, 1:09 remaining on the clock. So heading into the third period, the Jets had a 4-2 lead. In the third, Josh Morrissey would increase the lead to 5-2, getting his 2nd goal of the year from Scheifele and Ehlers, 11:39 of the third period, putting the Jets on top 5-2. And then Gabriel Berlardi would get his 4th goal of the year from Connor and Morrissey, 14:54 of the third period. So the Jets would win big, 6-2. The Minnesota Wild played host to the Tampa Bay Lightning. First off, I got to say, if you can see that very small picture, I love those new jerseys by the Minnesota Wild. It's basically a throwback to when they were the Minnesota North Stars, had that light green color. I really love this format. I know when they brought like the reverse retro in 2021 and 2023, they basically had similar jerseys to these, where they had the light green. I'm a huge fan of these. I couldn't be happier that they brought that color full time. So the first period, just the 1 goal to report. Braden Point would get a power play goal from Hedman and Hagel, 19:15 of the first period. So heading into the second, Tampa Bay had a 1-0 lead. Just the 1 goal to report in the second. Joel Eriksson would tie the game up, getting his 5th goal of the year from Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello, 47 seconds into the second frame. After the third period, where there was an onslaught of goals, to say the least. So the Wild would be credited with their 2nd goal from Brock Faber, his 2nd of the year from Middleton and Lacko, 2:41 of the third frame. Jake Guentzel would tie the game up at 2, getting his goal of the year, a power play marker from Hedman and Kucherov, 6:23 of the third period. Kirill Kaprizov would get his 6th goal of the year from Rossi and Matt Zuccarello, 14:37 of the third period, putting the Wild back on top, 3-2. Matt Boldy would increase the lead to 4-2, getting an empty net goal unassisted, 16:57 of the third period. Nick Paul would make it 4-3, getting his 4th of the year from McDonough and Ceranic, 17:34 of the third period. And then with just 29 seconds remaining, Kirill Kaprizov would get his 7th goal of the year, another empty net goal by the Lightning, assisted by Fred Gaudreau. So a wild finish, to say the least. After it was 1-1 heading into third, the final score would be 5-3. So 4 + 2, 6 goals were scored in the final frame. Alrighty, the last game from Friday took place in Calgary as the Flames played host to the New Jersey Devils. Now, one thing to take away before I get into this is obviously the return of Jacob Markstrom playing against his former team since being traded to New Jersey in the off-season. There's no scoring in the first 2 periods. We'd have to jump all the way ahead to the third, where Blake Coleman would finally break the tie with 5:34 to go in the frame, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Ball and Anderson. Jonathan Huberdeau would get his 5th goal of the year from Mantha and Blatter, and that goal happened, 36, 46, 56, about 28 seconds after that, getting his 5th goal of the year, making it 2-0 in favor of the Flames. The Devils would pull their goalie. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, and Blake Coleman, his 2nd goal of the game, his 3rd of the season, unassisted with 3 minutes and 15 seconds to go on the clock. So the Flames would shut out the Devils 3-0. All right, let's take a look at the standings. So in the Eastern Conference, the Florida Panthers are still on top of the Atlantic Division with a record of 8-3-1. They have 17 points. Tampa Bay is in 2nd place with a record of 7-4-0. They have 14 points. Toronto is in 3rd place with a record of 6-4-1. They have 13 points. In the Metropolitan, the Devils are on top for now, but that division's still so close. 7-5-2 is a record as we speak. They have 16 points on the season. The Rangers are 7-2-1. They have 15 points, and the Washington Capitals have a record of 7-2-0. They have 14 points, rounding out the top three in both the divisions. The Hurricanes are in the first wildcard spot with a record of 7-2-0. They also have 14 points, and the Blue Jackets, who are off to a good start, are 5-4-1. They're in the second wild card spot. I apologize, with 11 points. All right, this is the rest of the Eastern Conference, and realistically, there's only 2 points separating last place and the second wild card spot, so this is a very close race, but again, it's still very early in the season. Ottawa's 5-5-0, they have 10 points. The New York Islanders are 4-5-2, they also have 10 points. Detroit is 4-5-1 for 9 points. Buffalo is 4-6-1 for 9 points, as are the Habs and the Philadelphia Flyers and the Boston Bruins. So basically 4 teams have the exact same record. And Pittsburgh, even though they're technically in last place, but they still have 9 points, they are 4-7-1. So again, if Pittsburgh happens to win, they could easily bump up into that second wildcard spot. Not really, because they have a below 500 record, but you get my point. Like that race is just so close right now. But again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. We're still very early in the season. I guarantee as we get closer to the new year, and obviously when we get into February and March, teams are going to start separating themselves from pretenders and contenders. In the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets are still atop of that Central Division. They have a record of 10-1-0 for 20 points. Minnesota's in second place. They have a record of 7-1-2. They have 16 points. And Dallas is 7-3-0. They have 14 points. Over in the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights are still atop of that division with a record of 7-3-1. They have 15 points. The Kings are 6-3-2. They have 14 points. And Calgary is 6-4-1. They have 13 points. So first and third are only separated by 2 points. The 2 teams in the wild card as of now are the Utah Hockey Club. They have a record of 5-4-2. They have 12 points. And Vancouver is 4-2-3. They have 11 points. Now for the rest of the Western Conference, and I know it's still a long way, but even though if you look at Vancouver 11 points and Chicago with 7 points, they're only separated by 4 points. So it's still anyone's game at this point. But again, there's still a lot of hockey left to be played. Edmonton is 5-5-1. They have 11 points. The Seattle Kraken have the exact same record. Anaheim is 4-4-2. They have 10 points. Colorado is 5-6-0. They have 10 points. Off to a poor start. But again, there's only 11 games into the season. They still got 71 more games to go. So they easily can make up ground. There's no question about it. St. Louis has the exact same record, 5-6-0. They have 10 points. San Jose, they're no longer the worst team in the West. They are 3-7-2. They have 8 points. Nashville is 3-6-1. They have 7 points. And Chicago is 3-7-1. They also have 7 points. Who would have guessed over 10 games into the season the Sharks would have a better record than the Predators? Hands up. Anybody? No? No, neither did I. Alrighty, that's going to take care of Friday's recap from the National Hockey League season. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. As always, take care.